All right, welcome back to our episode on Fan Factory Podcast. We have a really cool guest today. I saw him in the stands at the NCAA tournament. Local guy to Minneapolis, which is cool. We welcome on Hawkeye Elvis. So thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you very much.
That's great. So we kind of talked a little bit before the show, but you're still in Indianapolis, kind of hanging out with the Gars, as it sounds like. Can you tell us how? Let's start from the very beginning, though. How did Hawkeye Elvis kind of get going? Like, where did this whole idea come from?
It started with my mom. My mom, grew up loving Elvis and listening to his records. And I would listen to her records and walk around and play her old 78s and 45s. And so I've always been a fan of the music and the entertainer that Elvis has been. And then I've had season football tickets for Iowa for 17, 18 years. And one year I'm at the game and it was a Halloween game and everybody in the stands had these awesome Hawkeye themed costumes on. And so I went back to my mom's house. I'm like, do you think you could make me a black and gold jumpsuit? And she's like, yeah. So the next year, I show up for like the Halloween game in Iowa City, dressed as Elvis with tiger hawks all over me. And I didn't know what else to call myself. So I called myself Hawkeye Elvis. And it was a blast, had a great day. And then I wore it to one basketball game that season. And then I'd wear it to two football games and two basketball games. And then when I wouldn't wear it, people in my section would be like, well, how come you're not dressed up today? We need Elvis to be here. So it's grown and exploded. And I never in a million years thought it would just continue to take off like it has.
That's great. So are you a graduate of Iowa then?
I'm not. I grew up in Iowa. I'm from a little town called Ogden. And when you grow up in Iowa without any proteins, you like the Hawkeyes, the Cyclones. And ironically, my hometown is like 20 miles from Ames. But I grew up at a time when Lute Olson was the basketball coach and Hayden Fry was the football coach at Iowa. And so, you have Iowa going to the Rose Bowl. You have Iowa going to the Final Four. And I loved the Tiger Hawk and I loved the Hawkeyes. And so they were my team. So I've lived around Iowa City for a few years. But no, I'm just a fan.
When was like the first time that you realized like this was taken off? Like Hawkeye Elvis was a thing?
So back in 2014, I have some friends who are attorneys in Atlanta, and Iowa was playing at North Carolina for the ACC Big Ten Challenge. And so we all decided we had to go to this, and they insisted that I Hawkeye Elvis had to come. So it was myself, two other grads from the University of Iowa, and a grad from UNC. And they got us seats directly behind the basket for this game. So it was, Iowa's not ranked at the time. Carolina's in the top 15. Iowa goes in there and beats them. And they beat them because they got like a last second 3-point play. Mike Gazelle drives the lane, gets fouled, lands on my feet. I'm watching the ball to see if it goes in. It does. I jump up and I'm pointing at the guys. And, celebrated. Iowa won. We're walking back to our hotel after the game. And one of my friends goes, Greg, you've got to see this picture. And it's a picture of me from the game, and I'm in the background. It looks like I'm on the floor, but I'm like pointing and celebrating with the Iowa guys, while Nate Britt from North Carolina looks pretty dejected that he lost the game. And the next day, it was on the front page of every newspaper in the state of Iowa. And if you Google Hawkeye Elvis, it'll be in probably the top 3 or 4 photos that pops up. So
yeah.
it really took off from there.
Cool.
So how big has this grown, or this character grown? Like, do you have a pink Cadillac that you're rolling up to tailgates with yet, or how's that working?
I wish I could get a Cadillac. No, I've got like a black Tahoe because I, host a tailgate. But it's got Iowa stuff all over it. And people have enjoyed it and I've really kind of embraced the personality. I'm friends with a number of the media members who cover Iowa in the state, and a number of them have done stories on me, just sort of, who I am, how I became this, and why I do it. And it's something I have fun with. And I've been fortunate with my seats where they are for both football and basketball that I'm like right down in the front row. And I'm a tall guy, so it's kind of hard for the camera to miss a guy who's 6'5" dressed as Elvis. But it's just been a lot of fun, and everybody has a good time with it. And if you're having fun doing it, why not keep going with it?
Sure. Yeah, we've had the honor of interviewing a lot of super fans, if you will, and they've kind of come ingrained with their team or their program to the point where they're almost like they've become almost a marketing arm for the team. So has Iowa started doing that with you at all? Like, are you going on appearances for them? I know the Children's Hospital is right next to the football stadium. Are you doing anything with that?
I've been very fortunate that the University of Iowa has embraced me, with what I've been doing. I've got a couple other pretty deep connections too. My cousin is actually Margaret McCaffrey, Fran McCaffrey's wife, the head basketball coach. And just from that relationship and meeting other people, a few years ago, we were at a bowl game, and one of the guys from the dance team came over and said, "Hey, if we did an Elvis themed halftime show for homecoming at football, would you be interested?" I'm like, of course I'd be interested. Why wouldn't I? So yeah, one year at homecoming in 2015, I was out on the field with the band and the dance team, and we did a whole Elvis ensemble, and we had a whole dance routine with me and the dance team and Herky. And it was a lot of fun. As far as appearances and things like that, I've had, I know people at the University of Iowa, and so I've had the opportunity to go to the dance marathon, which is really the big fundraiser for the University of Iowa Children's Hospital, and show up and meet some of the families and meet some of the kids. I've had other people go, "Hey, does Elvis do appearances?" I'm like, "Yeah, I guess." And they ask, "Well, what do you charge?" I'm like, "Nothing. I'll just show up." And a couple of small towns in Iowa have had like classic car shows on Saturday nights in the summer. And I've gone down to there, and we've turned into a fundraising opportunity for the Children's Hospital.
Very cool.
That's great.
So is it like every game you go as Elvis, as Hawkeye Elvis, or do you take nights off, or is there a time you wish you could maybe take a night off and just be more of like a fan, or do you enjoy all of that?
No, I really enjoy it. It's hard to for football the first couple games I won't dress up because, it's late August, early September in Iowa, and it's probably sunny and 85, and black polyester does not breathe. So I'll usually try to break out Elvis for the football games a little bit later. But no, I'll go one or two games usually where I'm not dressed up. I actually, it's funny because you saw me on TV at the tournament here. I hadn't dressed up since November of 2019, because right after I'd gone to Iowa played in a basketball tournament in Las Vegas, which of course Elvis is going to go to Las Vegas, right? And I had knee surgery right after that, and so I had to hang the jumpsuit up for a while, and then by the time the season ended, then COVID hit and closed everything down. And so I was just happy that coming to Indianapolis and being able to dress up and go to the game and enjoy the other fans again was something that was just great.
So
yeah,
let's talk about that. Let's talk about that a little bit, because that's kind of what spurned the thought of this podcast was just there's a void, right? The past 13, 14 months have there's been a huge void in folks like yourselves' lives and in our lives, too, just not being able to attend games. So what was that like? Like, how are you keeping yourself occupied? Did you pick up like any new hobbies or anything like that? Like, it's crazy because you go from, in your case, November 19, going to a basketball tournament thinking, I'll be back at this in a few months, to it's going to take me almost until, March of 2021 until I see a live event again.
Yeah. Unfortunately for me, but fortunately, I had both my knees replaced. My knees were just trash from years of playing basketball and running. And so I had the one knee replaced at the end of 19. And then I went in last summer, and my doctor's like, "Yeah, you got to get the other one replaced." I'm like, "Well, let's do it right now." Because I'm not going to Iowa City anytime soon. So we went and did that. But no, it's been hard to not have sports, and then to finally be able to see, see these guys back out on the floor again. And the coolest thing about really the fans being in the stands was Iowa played Wisconsin in our game in the Big Ten tournament. And even though it was limited capacity, it was still people cheering for these guys. And we beat Wisconsin, and then watching their faces, watching the players' faces as they came off the floor, and just the unbridled joy that those guys felt to have, people more than just like their family and stuff in the stands cheering for them. It was heartwarming to see how much a live audience meant to these players.
Yeah, isn't it like crazy how we take for granted stuff like that? Like, if there was only 10,000 fans, or let's say 1,200 fans at a Big Ten championship game every 3 years ago, it would be putting their nose up to it and being like, that's insane, there should be way more fans there. And now that we can get 1,200, 1,300 fans in, it's like we're the most excited people in the world about that. And I think that's a really cool part. So that's awesome. I'm glad you got to enjoy that. I'm still waiting. I think Lyle, you've been to one game, right? Since.
Yeah, so I live down in Dallas, so we had the World Series here. So I got to go to the World Series. That was an interesting experience, going to a neutral site World Series with a third of capacity at it. But you're right though. Like, if I would have told you that I was going to a World Series game and there was going to be 10,000 people there, like you'd poo-poo that. But
Right.
I enjoyed the fact that I had all this space around me. I could put my feet up. That was great.
So I'm a Chiefs fan as well, and the Chiefs played at Tampa on my birthday in November, and my college roommate lives in Tampa, and so we got tickets, went to the game, and with the socially distanced seating, the limited capacity, I will tell you the only good thing about any of that was I had room around me, and I could get up during like a TV timeout at an NFL game, go to the restroom, go to the concession stand, and be back in my seat and not miss a play. So that was the only good thing that happened is you didn't have to navigate that kind of traffic.
And you probably weren't dressed like Elvis, so you were able to move through there.
I was not.
So talking about Elvis a little bit here, how long does it take to get the whole get up, go like all set up and ready, like to get the whole outfit on and all that good stuff?
It's pretty quick. So my mom is actually, I have 4 different jumpsuits because after mom made the first one, my mom loves to sew. And so she keeps making them for me and designing them. And so I've got 4 different ones. It doesn't take long to get them on, put the jumpsuit on, put the wig and the sunglasses on. I've got a belt and then, some shoes. It's funny though, once, like at a football game, for example, I can change out of it very quickly. And sometimes I have a little fun with that if I'm, at a tailgate post game, and I'll quick duck behind my car, do a quick change, and I'll step out and go, "Hey, I heard Elvis was here." And some people won't recognize me and go, "Oh yeah, you just missed him. He was right here." So I have a little bit of fun.
That's funny. One other thing I'd ask about that, like, so we talked before the show, you live in Minneapolis. Mm-hmm. Is there like a group of you that go down to Iowa City for the games? Or how's that work? Like, or is it just you, or you got a whole caravan of people going down? Because I know there's a lot of Iowa alumni in Minnesota.
There are actually. So my mom still lives in Iowa, and what I'll do is on Fridays after work, I'll drive to Iowa, stay at mom's. My mom goes to a lot of the early season football games with me, and she doesn't really care for the games in the cold. So towards the end of the season, I'll just take a different friend of mine with me to the basketball games, or to the football games rather. And then it's kind of a rotating cast of whoever wants to go to an Iowa basketball game with me when I'm down there. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm fortunate to be able to continue to be able to do this.
I was jacked up and excited because we just moved here about a year and a half ago. So we're not we didn't come from Big Ten football country. But when I work with somebody who's an Iowa fan. I have obviously Gopher fans in my office. And when we saw that Iowa was playing Minnesota in Minnesota, I think it was supposed to be like a Friday night game this year. I was excited. I was going to go check that out because I know Iowa travels well, and they already have a huge alumni up here. So I think it would have been fun.
It is. I've lived in Minneapolis for just over 20 years, and the Iowa-Minnesota games in Minneapolis are a blast because, a ton of Iowa fans come up. And we're rivals, but it's never a mean-spirited thing. And in fact, Minnesota is about the only true road place where I will dress up and wear Elvis at the football games. Usually I'll just keep it with neutral site places, tournaments, bowl games in Iowa City.
Cool.
So one thing I always am curious about, and I guess I can take your barometer of fandom here, is has there ever been an event that has superseded you missing a game that you regret missing? So was there like a birthday party or an anniversary that got in the way of missing an Ohio State game or something like that?
I've always put both my kids' birthdays are in the fall. And depending on the calendar falls, I might miss Saturdays in Iowa City because it's my kid's birthday. Sure. My family will always come first. And I've had cases like that happen where at the last second, something's popped up. I couldn't make the drive. And a lot of times if I can't, find someone that I know, I'll put my tickets up on Twitter and say, "Hey, I've got tickets. I can't make it down there. Somebody go to the game and cheer for the Hawkeyes." So, as much as I love going to football and basketball games and it's my thing, it's not the most important thing in my life.
This might be a little recency bias here, but like if you had to pick right now, either Iowa football or Iowa basketball, which one would you pick? You can only have one.
Basketball.
Yeah.
And I say that because I've been in Indianapolis for the last 4 weeks. It's crazy to think about. I left my house a month ago today because I went to Iowa City to be there for the last home game for Iowa seniors. Now they weren't letting people in, but there were probably about 100, 150 of us who waited outside of Carver Hawkeye and greeted the team and cheered for the seniors as they came in, because it's senior day, and with Jordan Bohannon and Luka Garza not being able to have people in the stands, that just sucks. And so we tried to do something special for those guys as they were walking in. And then I'm very fortunate that I'm friends with Luka's dad, Frank. And Frank and I drove over to Indianapolis together. We've been here for the last 4 weeks. Even after Iowa got knocked out of the tournament, we stuck around because Luka's come to town. Getting all of his awards today. Today he won the Wooden Award, so a clean sweep for Luka Garza across the board in every major Player of the Year category, and just getting to spend some time and be in their orbit has been amazing.
So let's talk about that for real quick. So you're good friends with probably the best player in Iowa basketball history at this point.
Yeah.
And you're also friends with Fran McCaffery's wife. So are you the reason that Luka Garza is an Iowa Hawkeye?
No, I am not. No, that is 100% Fran.
Okay.
It's interesting because Luka Luka had never been to Iowa, but he played in the AAU circuit. And of course, Connor, so he played against Connor McCaffrey. And when they would play, it was a dead period. So no coaches could contact players at all. But if your kid was playing in the AAU games, then he could go. So Fran was there to watch Connor play, and then he noticed Luka. And so, Fran got kind of the sneak preview on Luka and liked what he saw, and, made sure that he came to Iowa.
That's cool. So we'll ask two different questions here. So what is the happiest Iowa sports has ever made you?
So I'm sorry, say that again, Adam.
What's the happiest that Iowa sports has ever made you? Either college, either basketball or football. When's the most happiest you've ever been when you've been cheering on this team? Is there a certain memory or moment that happened?
Yeah. The biggest moment in Iowa football history, probably the 2005 Capital One Bowl. And I wasn't Elvis.
I think you muted yourself.
Yeah, I think you're muted. Hold on. I can unmute him.
Yeah.
I gotta ask him to unmute. There you go. We missed that. Can you go?
Out of the field with everybody else, and it was just one of the great lives to be able to be there, see it, and celebrate in the field.
I feel bad asking this, but can you tell that story again? You're on mute for a majority of it. You muted
Sure.
yourself.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. Yep, no, it had to be the Capital One Bowl, January 2005. I wasn't Hawkeye Elvis at the time yet, but a friend of mine had gotten a sideline passes. So I stood on the Iowa sidelines for that entire game. And then when Warren Holloway caught the ball and everybody exploded out on the field, I ran out on the field with the team and, hugged the players and high-fived. And it was an amazing thing to be a part of.
Awesome. That's a good story. So what's the saddest you've ever been with Iowa sports? I got to ask, if I ask the happiest, I have to ask the saddest.
Sure. I'm thinking the 2015 Big Ten championship game, just because of what was on the line, and the way we lost that game with Michigan State just on a death march through the port, and that game could have turned 1,000 different ways in the last 10 minutes, and it didn't. That was probably if I will lose as a game, sometimes I'm upset for the players and the parents because of the crap they'll have to take sometimes online.
Yeah.
I've been saying this for a while. If the worst thing that ever happens to me in a day is a bunch of 18 to 20-year-olds I cheer for lose their sporting contest, if that's the worst thing that happens to me, I don't have a lot to complain about. So, not to say that I don't get into it, I don't take the game seriously, because I know how hard these guys work and they want to win and they're trying like hell to win. And I just, anytime we lose, I feel bad for the players and the coaches and the families more than anything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
they're just kids.
Yeah.
So I have I have one last question for you. I need you to sell me on it. I have two questions for you. I'm sorry. The first
Please.
question I had for you is, why is a night game in Iowa City better than a night game in Ames?
Well, first of all, have you ever been to Ames?
I have not, but I know that you never want to play at night in Ames.
I'm kidding. I know, and I have very good friends who are Cyclone fans. But man, you know what? Look at how many ranked teams. You know, when Iowa's been a prohibitive underdog, and they come into Iowa City at night, and this has been happening for years. The 2008 game when Daniel Murray kicked the field goal, beat Penn State, beating Michigan, absolutely pantsing Ohio State. Those are all. Iowa has a consistent history of knocking off. If you're a top 5 team and you're undefeated and you're going to walk into Kinnick Stadium at night, man, good luck, because it doesn't matter how good or bad the Hawkeyes are that year. You're not going to walk out of there with an easy W.
Yep.
There you go. He sold you.
No, it's so crazy. It's like the one state where you have the two teams and you don't want to play either of them at night.
No.
And then my last question, we talked about before, but you've got a normal job. We won't say who you work for, but do your coworkers know about Hawkeye Elvis, and what are their thoughts on him?
Oh yeah, no, everybody at work knows who I am, and actually we have a company website where we'll do like a profile of someone each Friday. And one time they wanted me to dress up in the full outfit, and so I took it to work, and I put the whole thing on and sat down and got interviewed. So no,
cool.
they all know. Yeah, they all know what I do and how much of a passionate fan I am. And it was funny you mentioned the other Big Ten fans in your offices. So yeah, in my office we have the Gopher section of fans. We have the Nebraska fans. Of course, we have a bunch of Wisconsin fans. There's a couple of Indiana people. We even have a Michigan State fan. So we have the Big Ten pretty well represented in the office. And, we have a lot of fun with it. There's a lot of lunch bets back and forth. A lot of a good-natured ribbing back and forth. But no, it's fun. My company and my coworkers have really enjoyed it.
That's great. I got one final question. And you brought up your children, and I don't know if you have any pets, but is anyone in your family named after anyone at Iowa, or is it all kind of been, keeping it family names, or or a pet maybe named after Garza or anything like that?
No, my kids are named after, my grandfather and my wife's grandmother. And we have a golden retriever, and my son named him Henry, which is just, it's a classic golden retriever. So it's really the dog's name really fits him well. So, but I'll put Iowa stuff on the dog sometimes and post pictures of it and have a little bit of fun with it too.
Did Hawkeye Elvis make an appearance at your wedding, or was that before your wedding?
No, I've been married almost 25 years, and I've only been doing Elvis for like 11. So it's funny you mentioned that. I had someone reach out to me and asked if I could officiate someone's wedding this fall. And that might be the strangest request I've had, for Hawkeye Elvis to do something.
Awesome. Well, we really appreciate you coming on. And I hope you enjoy your last night in Indianapolis before you get back up here to the Great North and back to Minneapolis.
Wonderful.
Thank you
guys,
so much.
Thanks for having me on. And Adam, let's connect sometime when I'm up in Minneapolis together.
Absolutely. We'll get you out to the tournament. You don't have to wear the Elvis costume. You can just come on out.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
All right. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.